Hello, Geeks and Gamers. It's Candace, aka Geeky Candy, bringing you guys the latest on all of the craziness that went down in the Disney annual shareholders meeting this morning in Raleigh, North Carolina. I sat through the whole thing and I gathered some pretty interesting information. I think that is going to give you a clear indication of where Bob 2.0 is intending to take Disney. Had any questions before about him? Stay tuned, stick around. You're definitely going to get your answers in this video. The shareholders came at the Bobs pretty hard this morning with question after question, basically with just concerns about what Disney has been doing and where it is intending to go. And their profits are not that great anymore. They're losing money and they're concerned with where the company's head is at. Despite all of the craziness that is going on, the shareholders still managed to reelect all of the current board of directors back into their seats. So they are all sticking around. Everything's going to be the same. And in fact, you're going to still have a Bob as the CEO, just a different old white guy named Bob. So how's that for diversity, Disney?
This is the way.
With that being said, the beginning of this meeting started with 5 proposals. The 4 of them were from the board of directors regarding pay and things like that. And of course, all of those were passed. Now, there was one proposal that was requested by the shareholders regarding lobbying efforts by Disney. The shareholder reported that since 2010, like around $38 million has been spent by Disney in lobbying efforts, and implored Disney to release that information so that they know where the company is spending this money, and was worried about maybe some perceptions, public perceptions that could have. And of course, the response was
of Disney's lobbying will ensure proper oversight of our company's lobbying, and we urge shareholders to vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. The board of directors has recommended a vote against this proposal and for the
Better luck next time, slugheads.
So that was obviously the end of that proposal. Once the board, decided that they did not want to agree to that, they asked for the shareholders to oppose it, and the shareholders, like sheep, fell in lockstep and went ahead and opposed the one item that the shareholders brought up for proposal. So the first question that came at Bob was regarding bias within Disney, anti-conservative bias, most specifically. The guy that brought the question, his name is Justin Danhoff. He specifically talked about the perceptions of ABC and its trickle-down effect with, Disney, why there is such a strong anti-conservative bias with ABC. And he ends his question saying, Mr. Chapek, I've been coming to this meeting for years imploring your predecessor, Mr. Iger, to address the extreme anti-conservative bias within ABC. I'm asking you to be bold and take on this challenge. The public's trust in the mainstream media is at an all-time low, and when leaked videos show that your own reporters are frustrated because they're unable to tell the truth on air, that speaks to a systemic problem within ABC. What steps are you taking to return objectivity to ABC News, and when can we expect to see balanced coverage on your airwaves? So it got real pretty quick. The answer that Bob gave was, so interestingly enough, this is so dismissive and awkward. So interestingly enough, the first trip I took after I got the job was to ABC News in New York. And I must say I was overwhelmed by their professionalism and their commitment to objectivity. In terms of Mr. Wright, he said some things that made us question his objectivity. And obviously when you're reporting the news, that's no place for somebody who's got heavy subjective opinion. Yes, Bob, that's right. The news is no place for heavy subjective opinion. And yet you just said you were overwhelmed by ABC's professionalism and commitment to objectivity. Okay, moving on. So internally we dealt with that situation. But I think ABC News has a stellar track record of being objective in reporting the news. And it'll continue in the future. That's it. That's it. Nothing to see here, guys. Just move along. we don't have bias issues. We're objective. I don't know what you're talking about. You can go ahead, sit down, Mr. Justin, with that question. Who are you to bring that here? Yeah, we're having none of that. Bob came prepared for this. That's for sure. That was his first question as CEO. So, well done. Well done.
Next!
Moving on to the next question, they talk a little bit about this lady comes up and she is very emphatic. She is like, you can tell there's emotion in her question. She's upset about how there is, well, I'll read to you the question here. Bounding into Comics did an article today. Basically, CEO Bob Chapek confirms Disney will have an increased commitment to LGBT characters and stories moving forward. So Miss Farrow, she was the one that presented this question. And she said, now, as you may be aware, almost 700,000 people have signed a petition asking Disney to reconsider the way in which you currently promote LGBT ideology and many of your products for children. Now the numbers of people signing this petition are rising. We have heard a lot about diversity, which is important, and Disney is a company that represents communities all around the world. Now there are families like mine. We grew up with Disney. We love Disney. We want to introduce our families to Disney's products. We want to trust your brand. And then she ends it saying, Disney's fallen 20% in their stocks. Perhaps it's time to reconsider what you can do to make Disney more family friendly, to make it more safe for people around the world, not just particular minority. And then she ends it saying, please, let's not have gay pride at Disneyland parks. Chapek responds again, totally dismissive of her plight, her position, says, well, thank you for your question. At Disney, we strongly believe we should reflect in our creative content the diversity that we find in our fan base and our audience. And I believe that will continue with an increased commitment as we move forward. We want to represent our audience. We believe we want to tell stories that our audience wants to hear and that reflects their lives. Tell me, Bob, I swear, the main demographic, this is just one little part. The Rise of Skywalker, the one that you did all the pandering to with the race baiting, the queer baiting, the gender baiting. You did all of that. And what was the main demographic that saw your movie? Yeah, how about white males? White males, and most of them were straight. I think it was like less than 10%, maybe less than 8% were LGBTQ. 70% or close to 70% was white male. Her question was very precise. She talked about right here, not just one particular minority, making it for everybody. I just couldn't believe that. And he just dismissed it. And just before this question was a little girl who was excited about seeing Mulan and then asked Bob Chapek, if I were to become the next CEO of Disney, which I'm sure he chuckled just a little bit because he was probably thinking deep down, honey, you're not a man and you're not named Bob, so there's no way you're going to be a CEO. She had asked them what advice can he give her? And he literally said, storytelling is the most important thing. You have to know how to tell a story.
Lies. Oh, lies!
And I was just in awe of that answer. And I'm like, well, Bob, how did you become CEO? How did you become CEO? How did Bob 1.0 become CEO if the story was at the center of what you do? Because that's not been the case. That hasn't been the case for a long time. That's why we have these shareholders coming at you hard like this. So I was in awe of that question and that answer to that little girl. It just seemed, again, so contrite, just so, it's frustrating. So this last question specifically targets the creative issue at Disney right now, and I'm just going to let the audio speak for itself.
Two main issues. Creativity. I worry about Pixar. The products that seem to be coming out of Pixar, I worry about. My kids grew up on Pixar. They loved all the stuff that came out in the 90s in Pixar. And I just don't see that sort of, Toy Story 4 was good, but it's another remake. The new creativity. I'm worried about the new creativity and what it's doing. Star Wars, I'm 16 years old when 1977. I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life. I worry about that too. Toy Story Land looks, I'm worried, like maintenance. Take the monorails, for instance. They should have been replaced 5 or 6 years ago. And now they're a constant maintenance headache, costing tons of money. I worry about creativity. I worry about cost. The company was built on Walt's creativity and Roy's practicality. And I'm worried that a little too much these days is Roy, not enough Walt.
So that right there is the most poignant comment of the day. Yeah, this guy has every right to be upset. And I'll tell you what, it was really interesting. The result of this, that the answer that they gave him, it was, again, it was a chance to be narcissistic about certain parts of Disney and how great they are. Like, they kept saying, we constantly hit the ball out of the park, but sometimes we may only hit a double. That's literally what they're saying. We may only hit a double. We always strive for the hitting that ball in the park. And this guy was like, no, you struck out. Like, you struck out on this. And we're upset about it. Chapek basically says the creative engine is alive and well at Pixar, Lucasfilm, and everywhere else in the company. And then he notes that they've increased investment in the parks in the recent years and defends Toy Story Land, saying it's just different than Star Wars and reaches a different audience. And then Iger pipes up and says, we never tell our teams to build something cheap. We tell them to build something great and then ask how much it costs. Yeah, so it was just, again, and then they started talking about different things that they're doing and how great they are and how creative they are regarding it. But it didn't hit the mark. It was so underwhelming. And again, if you are a Disney shareholder, I'm sorry. This is the state that it is in right now. And I was an optimist about Disney. I always try to be. It's in my nature. But after listening to today's meeting, I can tell you right now, I have zero faith that Disney is going to change anything moving forward for the positive. We've had a lot of headlines that have just been Disney shareholders call for objective reporting at ABC News. Disney CEO Chapek downplays ABC News scandals, pervasive anti-conservative bias. Disney CEO Bob Chapek defends ABC News subjectivity, and on and on and on it goes. So now we've got a really good idea of what Bob is all about. Let me know in the comments below what you think about all of this that went down today. As always, we will stay on top of it at Geeks and Gamers and make sure we present you the very latest regarding all things Disney, Star Wars, and beyond. Please, if you haven't already, hit the like button. We really appreciate it. And if you subscribe, you'll get notifications of every video that drops, so you'll never miss a beat. And so until next time, fandom, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy from geeksandgamers.com, and if you're a fan of Geeks and Gamers, please go to our website, visit our merchandise store. We have t-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, tank tops, and in the very near future, we're going to have many more products for you to choose from. So thank you for the support. We appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later.